Ugh, how you guys doing? Ugh. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot, here to tell you a story. Well, I've been talking to you now for almost 4 years, give or take. It was back in May of 2018 when I started, so whatever that is. And I'm out here in the deep green, and the the people who think they're rich, just because they spend 300 grand on a piece of dirt, which they won't even own, makes them, just because they drive a Hummer or a Audi or a Lexus or a Tesla, no, you know, because very soon everyone's going to have an electric car that you won't own, and that it won't even be your car. You'll just hit a little app and woo, 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 it'll be like George Jetson. A little box will land. You'll get in and it'll take you wherever you want, to the supermarket or to Paris. It doesn't matter. But if the folks behind that algorithm don't like you, that little box won't even show up. And you won't own anything. No property, no house, no clothes. Everything will be the state's. And depending on how good of a doobie you are, is, very similar to what China now has with its social. We have a credit rating, they have a social rating, and we're going to have a mix of both, right? And the Chinese people just save, save, save. So that's why they have a ton of money in the bank. Can't get to it, So they can't even get out of the house. People in Shanghai or Singapore or wherever the big money, their biggest, fanciest city with 25 million people in it, everyone's locked away. And they can't even get food. They're starving to death in their condos. It's like, and that is the essence of the big splat. And what's truly interesting is that what's going on in the Ukraine. I've been working on this. I keep saying, the only thing that exists is love's co-creation. So say we all. That's what I've been thinking about, writing about, reading St. Augustine and other great philosophers. And I've kind of come to see that love is all there is. But the conflict is that we live in a mirrored box, a mirrored universe, a parallel universe. And what we have in our lives is love's unconditional love and love's conditional love. And what's going on in the Ukraine is love's conditional love, right? And the Ukrainians didn't never thought the Russians would invade because they, Russia and Ukraine are the same place, same people, same everything. You go back their history 300 years, you realize that, right? And not just Stalin killing 6 million and then shoving all the Russians he didn't want in Russia into the Ukraine, but during the Tsar's period, and Ukraine is, even though it's a separate entity, it is, got a separate language. Pretty much, we're going to go and save all the Russian-speaking people in the Ukraine. Well, those are the first people who died, and basically everyone in the Ukraine speaks Russian, right? So what really is going on is the stuff you don't see, the hidden agenda. And the hidden agenda is not only taking down Russia, but taking down the United States, taking down the EU, taking down China, taking down everything that stands in the way to Mr. Global owning, right? And one of the, people going, well, Vlad had to go into Russia. It was an existential threat. Well, it's more than that. And there's like little, there are these labs that they're biological, blah, 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 right? Well, everything you hear within the construct of anything you hear in public, what do I say? Good morning, good evening, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, and don't believe a word I say, right? So, conversely, whatever you hear, you have to A, take with a grain of salt, and B, kind of, give it a good thought, not let it, um, you know, overcome your motif, right? You are there to see what it is. So that's what you need to do is see what it is. And let's see, our channel, Bray. Here we go. Here we go. Dark journalism.
Hello, everyone. This is Dark Journalist with a very special episode for you. Dr. Joseph Farrell is back.
That's
and he's
our boy.
going to take a deep dive on the covert actions around the Russian-Ukraine war and plans to remove President Biden through committee maneuvers, plus the real reasons for the planned destruction of the American economy through permanent war emergency powers. We've been caught red-handed developing bioweapons in a foreign country on the borders of another foreign country. To me, Daniel, this is another indicator that as far as the Russians are concerned, the gloves are going to come off. Please join us now. But Joseph, it's great to have you back. Thanks for having me here, Daniel. I'm thrilled to be here in more ways than one. So many of us are just happy that you're doing well and coming back so strong after everything that you went through. Yeah, it was it was an unusual experience. They finally had to put a stent in her. They ran a balloon up through arteries in my arm or something, and I'm laying there, kind of drugged up, feeling all of this going on.
I can relate, Joe.
It was an unusual experience.
Yes, Joseph, I was dead.
What everyone wants to know is, how are you doing? Well, I'm okay. I can definitely tell I've been through a heart attack. I don't have the energy I used to. I can definitely tell that. So anyway, I've seen American healthcare from the inside, and I'm not liking what I see. For the most part, I'm not saying that my cardiologist.
These are all the books he wrote.
Not good. So anyway, unbelievable. And I've been noticing your output. You've been, for someone who just went through this experience, you've been doing a lot. So well, I was counseled just to take it easy and don't worry about the website. It'll still be there whenever you decide to start it. And I'm sitting around here, for a couple of months after the heart attack, more or less falling asleep all the time. That's been the other part of this. It's been very bizarre because right after the attack, I would just.
That's me. I'm out here in the deep green. It's beautiful. And for 18 years, it's been heaven. And nobody's been here. And it's just gorgeous. And especially when everything greens out, it's like, whoa. But all the rich have come in and they're ripping and tearing and destroying everything. And the air is not the same. The water is not the same. And the animals have left. So I don't need to have a heart attack, right? So, somebody comes, gives me the big check, I'm out of here. And and there'll be parameters of that deal, but I'm not going to wait to die. I'm just going to. And this is something that I've done a number of times, and I've learned this lesson a number of times. And one of them is, if you are doing something, if you're in, a motif of doing something, when I was like in New York City, being an electrician, an artist, a provocateur, cultural provocateur, and involved in the esoteric, and had businesses, and traveling a lot. That was a lifestyle. That and when I kind of changed that, I had to tie up all of those things, and then because otherwise I'd have to keep coming back and taking care of this and taking care of that, and that's going to be this place. I'm just going to I'm going to really enjoy the time I have here, and it'll be this summer. And I'm going to, be on my way sometime, from June to August, and that'll be the window of it'll I'll tide everything up and I'll be gone. And on to a new and exciting thing, because these are new and exciting times, and we should all step up to them, because this is what Mr. Globaloni is trying to do. He's trying to, through all the chaos, since 9/11, but we were having chaos since the Yugoslavian War, since Vietnam, since South Korea, since World War II, since World War I, since the Spanish-American War. This is all a linear experience, and we are not linear creatures, right?
Not off. And I finally just decided this is nuts. I've got to do something.
Yep.
So I decided to start back with the blogging stuff, which, I'm doing as much as I can do, but I've cut back a lot, and probably
it's the stimulation of work. Yeah. I hear you. Well, it's been outstanding, and we're all glad you're doing better.
Thank you. I am too. And I'm very serious. I want to thank everybody for their prayers, because I'm quite convinced I wouldn't have made it without those. I'm quite convinced of that.
Incredible. It's an incredible experience.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
While a lot of that in your recovery was taking place, boom, we go into a war with Ukraine and Russia. And you've pointed out some really interesting things lately. What I wanted to start off with is this Russian politician, Zhirinovsky. And, he was always raised back in the 90s and the early 2000s. He was going to be the threat to take over against Yeltsin. He was the hard right, version over there. But recently he came out and said there will be no America by 2024. And he was making all these kind of heavy-duty things in terms of coming in with the war and really beating Ukraine and all this. And then he died.
Conveniently.
And at his funeral, Putin was there with the nuclear football. What do you think of all that, and what was going on with him and raising him as a figure? Now, he'd been out there, but he was kind of obscure.
Well, the messaging is this, and it's something that people in the West had better wake up to. Russia, the Soviet Union and Russia never really did fully buy into the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. So that's the first thing to get through people's minds.
Right.
Is they certainly believe a nuclear war would be bad and terrible and all the things but they do not think, as far as I can tell, that it would be a humanity ending event. It might come mighty close. But that's the first thing to take away from it. The second thing to take away from it is Zhirinovsky may be right, given the Brandonenko regime over here and its galloping, somersaulting incompetence. There may not be a United States in 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Who knows? And I'm very serious about that, because you're seeing more and more states jumping onto the bullion depository or bullion law bandwagon, and we just saw Russia, do that to the sanctions regime by putting a floor on gold prices and taking off the value-added tax on bullion sales in Russia, and then demanding everybody pay in rubles, or we'll take gold too. Either one, that's okay. So, the reserve currency status of the dollar, at least as far as a monopoly on that status, I think those days are quickly coming to a close. In other words, we may have a situation where it will be more or less like what obtained after World War I, with both sterling and the dollar kind of functioning as reserve currencies for a period of time. prior to World War II. I think you're going to see kind of a multipolar reserve currency world emerge. You're going to have the euro, you're going to have the dollar, the yuan, perhaps, or some special basket of currencies. But I think you're going to see the monopoly on that status as far as the dollar is concerned, simply disappear. And that, I think that's fast coming down the pike.
So that is Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, Dangerous Covert Games, Ukraine War, April on Dark Journalism, right? So go check that out on Dark Journalism. And I don't need to play it all for you. But I do want to read you from, this is a book called The Healing Runes by Ralph H. Bloom and Susan Long, right? And Bloom is, he has many books on the runes, and he's my favorite. He puts it in a very, so the runes are these 25 symbols, Gaelic runic symbols, and they represent things like love and grace and grief and shame and faith and the one I want to read to you, if I can, because I can barely see. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. I haven't been able to be doing as many YouTubes as I normally do because I have no money to put gas in the car. Kind of very limited, and that's why I'm realizing I'm out of here. So I could use some financial assistance in my PayPal, right? And I don't want to use PayPal. I don't want to use PayPal. I don't want to use PayPal. Do something else. Do something else. You do something else. You do something. Well, I have to drive 40 miles to just even do this, Well, this is closer than 40 miles, but it's still have to drive here, and anyway, so and people do. There are 4 people who put, like $10 to $20 in every month, and that usually squeaks me by. But things are getting, especially if I'm going to hit the road, I need some assistance. And if you live in America, you want me to, come to your house and spin up your town, start a theater and a coffee house and do some pretty interesting things in your neighborhood, I'd be glad to show up and give you assistance, right? But this part of the rune, number 25, is the divine. Divine love is present in each of the seasons of the heart. This is how bad my eyes are. I have no money to fix them, right? Please send me money in my PayPal, the dudewake42@gmail. 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 And very few are, no one has sent me. I'm willing to, give you a reading. Come on. Let's see. Throughout our lives, that loves, nurtures us, comforts us, inspires, and teaches us, and at the end takes us home. That's where I'm going. When did you first begin to know the divine? So when did you first know the divine? Was it in the innocence of your childhood? And, I first learned the divine when I was born, and I died and had the umbilical wrapped around my neck, and the male doctors, trying to pull me out with salad tongs to the point my head was about to pop off. And that's when, when they call you a blue baby, that's kind of the problem. For some reason, the blood flow stops and there's no oxygen there, so you're blue, right? And that is the carbon dioxide that your body can't, through your mother, get rid of. And luckily, there was a doctor in that room who kicked the men out of the way. This female doctor, Dr. Black, she pushed me back to my mom's uterus, took the umbilical off my head, scared the men. They ran away, took care of everything, waited, got my mom on oxygen, got her on a drip, then put her on nitrous oxide, and so she would relax. And nitrous oxide wasn't like some super duper, drug that would kill me. And nitrous oxide also brings, it's a dial, it opens up all the blood vessels, so you get oxygen into every cell. And then she waited a while, and then she took me out. Right? It's like an easy bake oven, and that's how I survived. And my mom's side, because they were about to rip off the umbilical on the uterus, and then my mom would have bled to death quite quickly. And and I remember that. Right? And so all during that time, I felt the divine. And then the next 20 days that I was in incubator, and I didn't see my mom. My mom went home and drank. Whereas Dr. Black and my grandma took care of me, right? And then my grandma kind of took me back to her place, and her neighbor was this black woman who had a baby, so she had these big breasts, so I got breastfed. And then I went back to my parents, and my parents put me in the sunroom because they didn't want me in their room, and they lived in a little house, and there were 4 other kids. So I got to sleep outside in a dresser drawer that was all moldy and dusty and painted with lead-based paint. And underneath me was the coal-fired boiler. And every time it started, it would blow up coal smoke into the. So anytime you came into the windows were iced up because it was so cold, and the air was full of coal dust. So that was what I was breathing for the first few months. And Uncle Steve came and just no, and he put a big gigantic radiator because he was the head engineer of Kennedy Airport, right? And when it was called Idlewild. And so he got his plumbers in there. They put a new boiler in, put this gigantic around the whole building. So the outside sunroom became the Caribbean. The windows, it was still winter, and the steam would rise, and it would cover the windows, and then they'd freeze, and then the sun come, and the whole room would be full of rainbows. And that was my experience of the divine, right? And I still remember that. And I tell you these stories, and what do I say? Don't believe a word I say, because there are people. You're a liar. Oh, I know you're a liar. You're a liar. And how can I be a liar when I keep saying, don't believe a word I say? And so when people, the rich people coming in here, and they're bringing all of their angst, they thought they'd come to the deep green and their life would be perfect and everything, but they're just bringing their problems with them, right? And it kind of doubles down because there's no, we're not just 2 blocks to the nearest Walmart, to the nearest Miracle Mile, or the nearest car lot that you can buy another car. So, unless you're into reading books or making music or writing, this is a tough place for people. So people are really starting to lose their minds. They come here, bought a chunk of property, bought a house, bought a this, then bought a boat and bought this and bought that. And, they bought motorcycles and 4-wheelers, and their attention span is so, they didn't even have the attention span to take the boat to the water, put it in. They get bored before they even get to the boat dock, right? And their attention is so bad that if they spend that $1,200 a year to have the boat kept in the water, they get bored because it's like 12 miles over there. They get bored before they get to the boat. And so their angst and their self-doubt and self-loathing, it just gets amplified. And it's within the construct of this view I'm looking at of love's, unconditional love or conditional love. And all these folks have conditional love, and they're putting all those conditions on their families, their wives, their kids, their husbands. And so everything's getting worse than it was when they lived in Florida or California or Texas, right? And so, and then I come along and I just, let me read your palm. And I just, boom, tell them exactly what's going on. They get very upset. Or they go, oh my God, you're my new Jesus. And that's the kind of response I get. Either idolization, which I don't want, or I'm going to kill your mother. and I don't want that either. And so I've already had, a couple of these situations where I talked to somebody, they got to know me somewhat, but I mean like that much. And then they got to the point where they got really comfortable and they told me things about themselves they told not even their wives, you know. And they got it off their chest. They wanted to vent. And I let them do it. And I didn't judge them. I didn't say anything. I'd say, and I would give them one little, maybe you should think about this. And then as they thought about it, they would get like, ugh, because they either wanted me to be their new Jesus or, I was their biggest problem, right? And so I'm seeing more and more of that. And it's so blaringly obvious because it's put up against the construct of the beautiful deep green around here. When if I was, let's say in Charlotte or LA or Atlanta or any place, or just in a little town in any place in the world, but mostly in America, because it is the starkest here, and that's why, and it's being done on purpose because there are certain elements that just want to take, and they have to, for Mr. Globaloni to make everyone just wear gray and do what Mr. Globaloni says. They're going to have to get rid of America, Russia, China, and the EU, right? And the center of this Mr. Globaloni is in the Vatican and in the city of London, not London per se, but this little square of real estate called the City of London, where all the money is, and in the thing called District of Columbia. The DC has nothing to do with America. It is the center of military power. So the Ukraine war that was just going to get, because we are now moving in, we're giving Ukraine helicopters, anti-aircraft missiles, a lot more anti-tank weapons, and we're giving them armored, not tanks per se, but those ARAPs or whatever those things that you can get hit by a big shell and everyone survives, and you can hang all kinds of weapons off it. So you hang a bunch of those Lancer anti-tank missiles or whatever they're called. You put 10 or 20 of them on there, and you stick 10 or 20 anti-aircraft missiles, all of those shoulder-held things, but you put them on racks and drive that into a thing where they're aircraft and they're tanks. And yes, that ARAM thing may get whacked, but the guys inside would survive and they could get out, right? They could probably unload all of their weapons, right? So each one of those anti-tank Lancers or whatever they're called cost 80 grand. But the tanks they blow up cost $2 million. Each one of those Stingers cost, $30,000. But if Russia keeps using their Su-29s as close air support, each of those aircraft cost about $20 million, right? And if they keep, that super hypersonic missile that they sent into Ukraine, that cost $100 million, one, right? Now, an anti-aircraft like that Stinger is a hypersonic missile. It just doesn't go 300 miles. It does about 4 miles, right? But once it comes out of the tube and gets going, the sucker is doing 2,500 miles an hour. There are other versions of it that do 4,000 miles an hour, and that is a hypersonic missile. Now it can only go 4 or 5 miles, right, up into the air, right? But it, from the time it comes out of the tube to the time it hits its target, it's usually about 3 seconds, right? And it's going real fast, so it has a lot of kinetic energy. And it's, somebody said, well, they're going to use the anti-aircraft missiles to hit Russia. No way. Anti-aircraft missiles, at best, go 20 miles, at best. They're really super long range, way high up in the air. SS, whatever, the Patriot, it doesn't go hundreds of miles, no. And it goes very fast, very accurate. And it hits the target, and it's explosives. It goes after the target, and just before it hits it, it lets go a bunch of like gumballs that are explosives, and those are like little hand grenades and hit whatever other airplanes or that airplane in a lot of places. But when that warhead hits kinetically the aircraft, that's what takes the aircraft out. So anti-aircraft missiles cannot be used as ground attack missiles. And people go on and on about, well, I heard this on, the gray matter. Well, they don't have too much gray matter, right? So, but this war is going, and the Germans, the Nazis, they took out 60 million, soldiers. How'd they do that in less than 2.5 years? They had nuclear weapons. One of the nuclear weapons we dropped on Japan was, thank you, Mr. Adolf Hitler. It used to have a swastika on it, and then they painted it gray. I mean, go read Joseph P. Farrell's books. Go watch that thing that I was playing. I was going to play the whole thing, because you can go on YouTube, go to most recent, version of Dark Journalist with Joseph P. Farrell in the last couple of days, and there it is, right? So, and when I see, all these people like Scott Ritter and et al., I mean, everything they say is true, but it's just that much of the story. It's not the big picture, right? Big picture is Mr. Globaloney going to fry. I mean, go look up what the Georgia Stones are. I mean, that's what Mr. Globaloney wants. And I'm old enough to, I can do it. So I'm not going to stay here. I'm heading out and going to go have a good time. Doesn't matter whether I have a lot of money or not. I'm just going to go, back to being, a cultural evocateur, evoke, right? To bring forth, to bring out, to bring the love, the unconditional love. That's what a cultural evocateur is. Now, cultural provocateur is the person who wants to control love, right? That's there's unconditional, and then there's conditional. So a provocateur is the conditional, right? You do it my way, right? The evocateur is, let's bring that love out. That love is in you. Let's see the love in you. Let's be unconditional, right? And so that's what I'm about. That's what I'm gonna do. That's where I'm gonna go. Okay, so that's 32 minutes. How much time have we trespassed? 2 minutes and two. It's almost 3 o'clock. Well, a little bit more. Let's see what Jimmy Dore has to say. Let's see if you guys hear this. Boop, 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 boop.
Hey, so check this out. This is the amazing tax app. Hey guys, it's Glenn Fogarty here from American Family Survival.
Good luck with that.
So there was a shooting in the subway in Brooklyn in New York, and I think there was 11 people shot. I'll get you the exact number in a second, but it was crazy.
Oh, no, I didn't even know that.
Retreat from Kyiv and Chernihiv from the north. I said many times that we do not believe that Kyiv was no longer under threat, particularly from airstrikes. I mean, we said that many times in the early stages of this retreat and this repositioning of Russian troops. The Russians still have long-range airstrike capability available to them, whether it's through missiles or from air-launched cruise missiles. Ballistic missiles or air-launched cruise missiles. They still have that capability available to them. We never, for a moment, even as the Russians began to reposition, felt that Kyiv wasn't potentially still under threat. I can't and won't speak to specific intelligence assessments about what the likelihood is here.
Vatican City is the smallest country on Earth. It covers less area than New York's Central Park. If you were to walk from one side to the other, barely half a mile, you might stroll beneath the mighty columns of the iconic St. Peter's Square, gaze upon the Sistine Chapel, St. Peter's Basilica, or the Apostolic Palace, the architectural majesty of one of humanity's most historically significant cities. And yet, what is most significant historically is perhaps not what stands on top of the earth, but what lies beneath it. There, in a fortress-like bunker, closed to the public and protected by armed guards, lies an incredible 53 miles of shelving. more than 100 times the distance from one side of Vatican City to the other, dug deep into the earth. On these shelves sit 12 centuries worth of documents, an unmatched history not just of the Catholic Church, but of the world as we know it. This is the Vatican Secret Archive, and hidden within it are the original recordings of some of history's most important and well-known events. There are some, however, who say that this is not all that is hidden there. Some believe that deep beneath the Vatican is a different kind of history, one of secret powers, apocalyptic prophecies, and perhaps even extraterrestrials. Before we start, we want to express our gratitude to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. ExpressVPN is the most effective virtual network that uses advanced encryption to protect your privacy while still allowing you to surf with high-speed internet. Now that you're probably working from home like we do, think about all the confidential information you handle. Oftentimes, when we do the research for our videos, we browse into many websites containing declassified documents, but we always use ExpressVPN to stay anonymous. I used to think using incognito mode would hide all my activity, but it doesn't. I know I don't want my internet provider seeing all the sites I visit and selling that to advertisers and other third parties. ExpressVPN ensures that 100% of your data being
Release all that you think of as true. Relax the mind and ask the question,
These kids
do I
are pretty
truly
good.
understand what this reality is?
In order to firmly grasp the ideas presented, this is what you will need to know. Mainstream history, alternative histories like Atlantis, Lemuria, religious doctrines, the history of the occult and astrotheology, and the history of Rome and Christianity.
There's been a lot of hype around the Tartaria conspiracy lately, and naturally there's a lot of confusion surrounding it. This video is really an attempt to develop the theory further. So, let's type in Tartaria in Google and see what we find.
I don't know if you got any of that, but the Tartarian kids are very good. Again, Joseph P. Farrell, the last 5 days ago, and dark journalism, that would be very good. Anyway, so I'm about to lose my battery, so I'm going to say, see you later, guys. Again, I really would love some assistance to my PayPal, you know, to give me $1 zillion. Oh, I could lose all my money. No, just a few change. And you want to get a hold of me? The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. You want to send something to me in my, mail it to me, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. We start a conversation. You can get a hold of me, right? It's pretty obvious that, the powers that be allow me to do this, but they definitely keep me down on the farm, and that's fine, right? And because I enjoy, I don't do anything unless I enjoy doing it, right? But I have very limited resources. So, and I'm having to start save my pennies because I probably need some work on my eyeballs because, otherwise I'm going to end up, wearing sunglasses. Anyway, so what else can I say? But I love you, and I hope you got something out of this. And remember, just do your best. You don't have to be perfect. Remember that love is all there is, right? And be unconditional with it. Don't be conditional with your love, because that's when you are, as the church lady used to say, and what's that? That's Satan, so. And you got to realize that Jesus and Satan are mirrored twin siblings, Just remember that one. Or your church people will get upset about that. But anyway, and don't believe a word I say. Don't, get upset about anything I say, because this is just a story. Please, this video is just made for entertainment. And children, all of you people who believe things, right? You are, that is a sense of, that's all I believe, I can't think of anything else. Oh, that's the, childish, not childlike, childish, big difference. Childlike is the open heart, the unconditional love, right? Childish is the conditional love, right? So, like all those church people and everybody who wants to control a woman's body, I'm not a big fan of abortion. I'm more a fan of, it's not hard not to have a baby. It's women have a cycle. If you can read a calendar, you can pretty much guarantee birth control for about 92%. When women are ovulating, they give off a little mucus down in their hoo-hoo. And before, boys, you stick it in, you'll go down there and play with it a little bit. And if it's, a little sticky, you put your fingers in there and, ooh, does that feel good, Susie? Cream cheese? Mm-mm. Oh, yes, more, please. And then you take them out and you do this. If there's a kind of snotty kind of thing, not to put your Johnson in there. You do other things. Then you don't have babies. You don't need abortions. Abortions are a whole nother story. But to pass all these laws that they're doing, not really. It's not the way to go. That's conditional love, not unconditional love, right? So anyway, and to ban books in school, let the person who's reading that book make up their own mind. You're scared that somebody's going to read a book and might think, that's not a good thing. Anyway, so I'm out of here. I love you guys. Let's say the old prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not in temptation. Blah 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 blah. I love you guys. Catch you later.